Hello class, in this tutorial I'm going to teach you how to draw your robot design for your assessment task using the website called Vectr, okay? So if you guys just click on this link over here or the link that I've included down in the description, you will get onto this website over here, and I'm just going to quickly tell you guys some of the features that you're going to be using to draw your robot. So over here you could actually include a rectangle, a rounded rectangle, an ellipse. You could also draw some of these shapes that are not provided using the pen tool over here. Do not use the pencil tool because the pencil tool doesn't actually allow you to draw very straight lines, so don't bother using this option. You could also include a text message, upload an image, or you could also have an access to more shapes that other than the rectangle, rounded rectangle, and the ellipse. And this would include the triangles, pentagons if you'd like. But yeah, you have access to other shapes as well. Now, in your particular robot design, what you need to do is that you're going to need to somehow include an equilateral triangle, a scalene triangle, an isosceles triangle, a right angled triangle, a parallelogram, a trapezium, as well as a pair of parallel lines dissected by transversal. So you need to include all of these, and you can actually include more than one of that shape. So you can have multiple equilateral triangles. You can have multiple parallelograms if you like. Not only that, but you're not just limited to these shapes. You could also include other shapes as well that's not included, such as a square, a rectangle, or even a circle as well. But you must have all of these 7 shapes that are listed in this particular checkbox over here. So, in order to draw, what I'm going to recommend you do first is I'll recommend that you click on this button over here, the snapping and grid, and click on the grid option. The reason why you want to click on the grid option is because when you're going to be freehanding your parallelogram or your trapezium, it will help you draw more straighter lines, because remember that in order for you to draw a parallelogram, you're going to need to have 2 lines that are parallel from another, so they don't actually intersect at all, okay? And they're the same distance apart consistently. So let's start by creating a little demo robot so you have a better understanding of how to use this website. So what I'm going to do is for my robot, I've decided to use a triangle as the head for my robot. Okay, so to do a triangle, you just go into more shapes, and I'm going to be using this option here. Now, if you click on it, it would automatically draw the shape for you. As you can see here, you can drag it and then resize it accordingly to your preference. So I'm going to resize mine like this. And if you click on it as well, on the right hand side, you can also change the color of the shape that you've just drawn. So if you click here, you've got access to a number of color palettes. So I'm going to change the color of my robot head to a nice orange color, okay? Once I've done that, I might want to now include some eyes. Now again, you don't have to include circles, but I'm going to include circles because I can include as many different shapes as I like, but I'm still meeting the criteria where I still have to include all the other shapes that's outlined on the right hand side. So I'm going to resize this. I'm going to make my eye color red because I want it to look extra badass. And I'm going to Control C, Control V so I can have the exact same dimension and just reposition the eyes. Now that I've got the eyes and the head for it, I might want to now include a body. So I might want to include a scalene triangle this time. I might want to include a parallelogram, a trapezium. It's up to you guys. But for my design, I'm going to draw a parallelogram, and I'll show you how you can actually draw a parallelogram. To draw a parallelogram, what you're going to do is you're going to hover your mouse and click on the pen tool. Now, when you're drawing a parallelogram, remember that a parallelogram has opposite sides that are parallel from one another, and they have the exact same length as well. So try to draw your parallelogram as accurate as possible and use the grid lines to guide your drawing. So in this case over here, you would click over here on this vertex, and I've decided to move my parallelogram so it's kind of like moving 2 units to the left over here. And I'm going to do it like this and place it like this and then connect it again like so, okay? Now my parallelogram kind of looks a bit wonky, so I might want to redraw this again just to make it extra accurate. So let me redo that again using the grid lines to assist me. Sweet, and I think this parallelogram looks a bit better than my previous one, okay? It's slightly uneven because I think this side length is a bit longer than the side length on top, but I think you get the idea. You can actually remodify this accordingly, guys, okay? So I'm just showing you how you would do that. And again, if you want to change the shape, just click here and you can change it to whatever color you like, sorry. Now that I've included a really weird parallelogram, what I might want to do now is include a trapezium somehow. So a trapezium, if you're going to include a trapezium, again, you're going to be using the pen tool. So to draw a trapezium, remember a trapezium is a quadrilateral. It kind of looks very similar to a parallelogram in that sense. So this over here is my trapezium, okay? Now remember that this line over here, this bottom line and this top line, they should be parallel to one another. As you can kind of see that this is kind of tilted a little bit, so it's not exactly like it, but again, if you play around, you can make this a lot more straighter and appear more parallel. But this is essentially a trapezium, so now I'm going to color this in a different color. I'm going to use green in this case, so that's going to be the arm for my robot. I'm going to draw the other arm, and this time again I might actually use a trapezium as well. So I'm going to draw something like this over here. So that again is my trapezium, and I've got two parallel lines as you can see, and for that one again I'm going to use green as well. Okay, so I've got arms for my robot design over here. Now I might want to include a leg, okay? And the idea is that you're trying to include other shapes. So I've included an equilateral already, a circle, a parallelogram, as well as a trapezium. So I somehow need to incorporate a scalene, isosceles, a right angle triangle, and a pair of parallel lines. Now, I think the hardest one to do and to incorporate into your robot design is the pair of parallel lines. So just a reminder what a parallel line looks like. So a parallel line looks something similar to this. So that's one line over here. And to draw the other line that's parallel to it, I'm going to draw it like this. Okay, so I've got two parallel lines and I've kind of deliberately done it slanted. And a transversal is pretty much a line that cuts through your parallel lines, okay? And remember that we talked about that by having a transversal cutting through our parallel lines, this creates four angles. And these got special relationships like the corresponding, the co-interior, and the alternate angles, but you don't really have to worry about that for now, okay? So you're going to somehow include a design like this into your actual robot, and it's really important that you try to be as creative as possible. So you're probably thinking at the moment, how am I going to include this ugly ass transversal line and parallel line into my fabulous, superb 5-star robot design? Well, in this case over here, just to give you some ideas, you can still create some shapes using this particular parallel lines along with the transversal lines. As you can see over here, you can kind of draw and create a trapezium, which I've done over here. Okay, so that's a trapezium over there, and you might want to use that for a leg. Another way that you could also do this by being a bit creative is that you could also draw even a parallelogram. So you could do something like this as well, and somehow incorporate that into your image. So maybe you might want to incorporate this as your leg. So I'll show you how I might do it, and you can get some ideas based on this. So again, what I'll do is I am going to draw my transversal line. I'm now going to incorporate my parallel lines. Okay, so I've got my transversal lines with my parallel lines. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to draw some shapes using these lines as like the backbone, the skeleton in this case over here. So in this case over here, I might want to draw some shoes maybe. Okay, so in this case, let's make my shoe extra pointy, like so, like that. Okay, I'm going to try to make my robot have some thick legs, so something like that. Okay, and I've got one line that looks kind of out of whack, so maybe in this case over here I can try to play around and design something like this. So maybe I will make my shoe actually a bit bigger. So I'm going to connect this and draw a rectangle like that. And if I do it like this, you can kind of say that this looks like a very weird shoe and weird leg. And that doesn't matter at all, okay? Because we're not going to be assessing you too much on the visuals of the robot. So now I've got a transversal line, a parallel lines, and I was able to actually draw a trapezium in this as well. I was also able to draw these two parallelograms as well, so or three actually. So that's just a tip. That's something that you could do as well. So you might want to do the exact same thing on the right hand side for your leg. So that's a tip of how you could actually draw the last stop point. Something that I haven't included yet was a scalene triangle. So let me show you how you might want to do that. So in this case over here, I might want to decide that for my particular robot, I'm going to use a scalene triangle as my hand in this case over here. Okay, so I might want to draw it like in a similar manner as how you would draw like I suppose a knife or something along the lines of that. So remember, a scalene triangle is a triangle with unequal sides. You can clearly see that this has unequal sides. So I'm gonna label this use a different color to show that this is a different type of triangle. So that's my scalene triangle over there. Now, at this particular stage of my design, I've incorporated most of these shapes in the list. All I need to do now is show an example of a right angle triangle as well as an isosceles triangle. So let me try to do that by maybe doing that with the other robot leg. So in this case over here, I'm going to use the pen tool again. Obviously, you know that you could actually do the triangles with the shapes, but in this case, I prefer to freehand draw it instead, just to show a bit of my creativity. And what I am going to do in order to draw the right angle triangle is I want to do something a bit creative. Now, in this case, if you guys remember, but essentially you can draw two right angle triangles in a square. Okay, so I'm kind of trying to do that right now, but why won't it let me? So I've done a square here. So now let me try to divide that by drawing a line between, and in this case over here you now have two nice right angle triangles that's present in your square. And since I've done that, I'm going to try to be creative and show that using a different color. So let's use that with a dark blue in this case. Now that I've done that using a right angle triangle, the only thing that I'm really missing is an isosceles triangle. And we said that an isosceles triangle is a triangle that has two identical side lengths. And this time I'm going to use this particular triangle feature to automatically do that for me. So this time, remember, you're trying to make sure that your side lengths, the two side lengths, are identical because that's what an isosceles triangle looks like. So this over here looks like an isosceles triangle to me, and to show it, I am going to use a different color. So this time I might be using yellow. So guys, this is just an example of how you might do your robot design. You can try to do something similar to me. You could do something a bit different from me as well. Okay, but try to use this as a reference to do your own robot design. I wish you best of luck, and I look forward to see your designs. Thank you for watching the tutorial. Bye.